Welcome back, everybody, to another Traveling Goof OverPower video. As you may know if you've heard some of my other pack opening videos so far, I am essentially a new player. I played when I was a kid, but all this stuff is new. So today I'm going to be talking about my thoughts opening my first new cards for the Edgar Rice Burroughs and World Legends set on OverPower. So I got a couple things to talk about. First of all, this pretty much is my Kickstarter spread. I got one of each of the starters packs, I got some power stations, and then I ended up buying a box off of the Orange King because this was not going to be enough for me. Within that one box, I pretty much got at least one of every character. I did have a few gaps. I was missing, actually, the regular Angry Mob. I never got their stack. The Middle Ages, I never got the Industrial Age stack, even though I got some of their specials and their rare cards. Didn't get a Mr. Hyde, didn't get a Leonidas. So few things there that everyone's been saying that a second box is really what you need, and it seems like that's pretty true, at least for having playable sets. But either way, it was cool to crack open 36 packs. Gave 2 of them away as a present, and then we did a 2-person draft with 6 of those packs as well. So I'll get into that more later, but I've been teaching a few people how to play the game as I've been relearning myself, and just wanted to share some thoughts because I haven't seen too much out there about it. So the first thing that I've noticed, so we've got the starter sets, which they seem to be pretty good for teaching. They've got, you know, a smattering of each type of card so you can explain it. I like how they don't have home bases to change the rules of the games any more than they have to. And they don't have too many duplicates, so it's not very frustrating for a new player to have to lose some of their best cards. That being said, they're not great decks for the most part. I mean, I think the Zeus deck, the Ungodly Powers, is better than the other ones because they've got 2 8s in the form of Zeus and the Wicked Witch, which I have her laid out here, but this is actually one of my favorite characters from the set. Very cool. Makes me want to play her in almost any energy deck that I've got. But everything else in this is pretty standard. The only other thing that I noticed is this is one of the few decks that actually comes with a teamwork in it. Most of the other ones have basic universes and training universes, but this one comes with the teamwork, and the fact that it's got 2 8 characters instead of just 1 makes it just better than the others. Cthulhu, I think that one runs pretty well, even though sacrificing a teammate is probably something that a new player is not going to want to do or want to pick up too much, but it's definitely my favorites of the character groups in here. And then the last one that I want to talk about is the Intelligence one, Time Detectives. I think this has got potential. I mean, it lays out the foundation of how intelligence is very different than the other stats, about how you're maybe less offensive, but you're able to do a lot of trickery instead. The one character that I got some questions with is Victory Harbin, because she's very intelligence heavy. Her defense counters intelligence, so it's very situational if you're not facing too much of that. Most of her cards cause you to discard power cards, intelligence power cards, so that kind of costs you. So I just think that she's probably a more difficult player, more difficult character to play with, and probably was not the best choice to include in a starter deck. But pairs well with Joan, I suppose. I think she's a really cool character, and I can't wait to see her once the Invincible set's out to make some more decks. Time Traveler, awesome spoiler card for an 18. Can fit in a lot of places. And then Sherlock Holmes He's got the 8, he's got negates, but to be honest, he's kind of a flat character aside from that. Definitely a support. Anyway, all my teachings that I've done have been using these decks, so I think that they're cool for that. Okay, so breaking into the packs though, there's a few things that I noticed. The first is that you pretty much need to stock up on these packs to get all your any character cards. They come in the uncommon slots, but realistically, you are going to be just pulling teamworks with all your uncommon slots. I mean, there's a hand, each of the 43 characters has, well, almost all of the 43 characters have one special that's uncommon. But aside from that, you're just going to be grabbing tons and tons and tons of these really awesome teamwork cards. They've got great art. I love how they also feature characters that aren't even in the set. Some of them they do, but then you have, more fairy tale type stuff. You got pirates, like very, very cool ideas for all these artworks. But half of the any characters that I haven't made into my decks yet pretty much are the ones that I just got from like the packs. I'm always struggling to get enough of these. Certainly I'm losing the ones that I would like to, and I've got a couple combat decks made, so now they're the only ones that I have left. So I wish they would have found some way to reduce the number of teamworks available, perhaps only 6 and 7s, or 7s and 8s perhaps. And that way, instead of having 3 teamworks with like 4 different types at each level, and then 4 different icons, 4 different energy, combat, brute force, and intelligence. You're looking at a lot of your uncommon slots are just teamworks, and I wish they would have minimized that, or at least done some sort of counting, because it seems excessive. The other things that I've noticed so far from opening all these is that I'm not getting enough mission sets to really make decks, and I suppose that I can just keep a mission set in a pack and just bring them along with me everywhere I go, and that's probably what I'm going to have to do. But like I said, I've been using these starter decks as my the ways that I teach people. And so I like to have them ready to go without opening them up and realizing like this that there's no mission cards because I had to steal their Tarzan mission cards for another thing. So I hope at some point in the future that we will be getting, I don't know, like a mission set box or something like that where you can just pick up for 12 or 15 bucks. Four missions, 1 through 7, and then all the event cards associated with that. Another thing that I think is a little bit bizarre is that there's no basic or training universe cards in the packs themselves. Now I get that they're not very great. Wish they would have a better place, but I agree in that it's hard to justify trading, trading a card in your deck that could potentially give you venture, or at least a special that trades cards, for something that has just a temporary bonus in most cases. They're cool and they can get an attack over, but an avoid or shifts and all those type of things can just negate, essentially make them not very useful. So I think the best time you would want to use them would be in draft, when you have a limited card pool and can't just pick all the different stacks and character cards that you want. So you can't just get every special. So that would have been a great opportunity to actually make them involved with play. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be something that you can do. It makes the home bases that rely on training and universe cards also unplayable in draft. So it just seems a little bit bizarre when it's such a kind of a good unplanned card to put in. And then finally, I think I would also like to talk about home bases in regards to the set. So I've got a number of the ones that they got. So like Land That Time Forgot makes it really cool because you can throw a card, but it's a 3 cost. So same as the Odin's Vault, and then I don't think I have any other ones there, but Odin's Vault and Dracula's Armory, they're also really high costs. So you've got a choice between Event Horizon, which doesn't seem to have much use unless maybe legacy decks let you run multiple copies of an event instead of all these 1 per decks that exist in this version. So if you're not running a expensive home base and you're not running Event Horizon, you're just left with the 0 cost ones, which Barsoom helps with the 3 or 4 characters that can get buffed there, but aside from that, it's useless. Asclepion seems to be a pretty good choice because there's going to be a lot of either negating or healing that can at least get this to trigger once or twice in a battle. So that seems like it can be helpful. Then the Round Table, which gives you any character placement slot, also seems to be a decent choice. And then the Standout of Baker Street, where you can just be pulling either cards off their hand, off their deck, pretty much whatever you want. And that just seems absurdly strong. So it seems like there's almost no reason to run any home base unless it's Baker Street, or you want to do the any characters with Round Table. Just seems a little imbalanced, or at least lopsided. So a few things that I've kind of noticed with this set. So I looked it up. We've got 4 16 threat characters, 3 17, 13 18, so that's the majority. Then we have 6 19 threat characters, 10 20 threat characters, only 2 21 threat characters. Our hero Leonidas and the other one Merlin, which we'll talk about him in a sec. Then the 4 big guys from these decks, mostly these decks. You got Cthulhu, you have Sun Wukong, and a few others, and then the Zeus from Ungodly Power. So the spread is mostly 18 drop characters, a good amount of 20 drop, but then if you want to use any of your high cost characters, you're pretty limited. And kind of the strangest thing is the 6 19 threat characters, the baseline one. You're just limited in your options. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because first I want to say that these icons that they use are incredible. I love grabbing a special set and seeing exactly what they can do, because I'm looking at some of my old cards and I have no idea if they're capable of being played on defense, and so something like this really helps because no attacks may be played against Wicked Witch for remainder of battle. That's defensive, so they attack you, and my understanding is then you can just throw this up and avoid their attack, and then obviously it lasts for remainder of battle as well. Whereas I would never want to play this preemptively, or at least there would be very, very few situations, since that's such a niche thing to have that one character targeted by a teamwork card, essentially, or raw staff. But anyway, these symbols are an excellent addition. I've had a lot of people who I've been teaching who have also really thought that they were good. Alright, so a couple other characters that I've got laid out that I wanted to talk to. The set's got a lot of really cool things in it, and honestly I hope that they do another World Legends in the future. I mean, actually really all the ones that I have out here aside from Carson are kind of legends or open source type of stuff. And I just think that there's a whole world worth of it. So I'd love to see this return on like an every 2 or 3 year type of thing where they throw more into the mix. But I got a few other things that I want to talk about. So the first is Carson. And for the most part, you add up all the different stats and it's going to be pretty close to the threat value. Carson, it does not work out that way whatsoever. He is a massive 23 stat character according, to his numbers, and he's worth 18 or 19 if you throw him in reserve. So, I mean, you're just getting so much bang for your buck here, and he's got a couple good specials that you can play from reserve. On a 7 attack, they can also be used as a 5 defense. Avoids, like when you search through your opponent's hand, I think, and pull one out. But he's got a lot. So, like, it almost makes no sense why he made it all the way down to 18 instead of at least a 19 when, he's going to be able to play a monster amount of power cards. Dracula is another, he's got same level pretty much of stats, 22 for his 22 points. He's a little bit strange to me because it seems like almost all his attacks are combat cards. He's got 2 5 combats, no other numerical attacks. He's got a negate, and then he's got an avoid, which the avoid doesn't really make that much sense since his attack will let you pull hits off of him. His innate will let you pull hits off of him. He almost feels like you're not going to be taking down Dracula no matter what. People aren't going to be targeting him. So I feel like I wish he didn't have that special. And especially for a 22-point character, like I would have liked to have something different because now it makes me not want to play him for his point value. So we'll see once I get some games in me. All right, another couple of characters I want to talk about are Morgan Le Fay and Merlin. So everyone was very excited when I was looking at all the box openings. When they're ripping their packs, they're looking for Merlins and Merlin stacks. Now, really cool artwork. I love the lighting. I love how dynamic this is. But then you see that he's one of the 2 21-point characters. And at that cost, I was hoping that he'd have some sort of big stats. And not only does he not have an 8, but count it up. 7, 9, 11, 17. So same stat as his apprentice Morgan, but you get 2 extra threat level for him. Now I get one of them is probably just from his innate because that essentially, could be a home base type of thing where you'd pay a point for that. But he comes with that, so I get it. And then the other fact that he's a 20, despite having 17 stats, has to come from the fact that he's the only true negator around. Right? This is cool. You can throw attacks and, play attacks from your teammates. So that's also good, prevents if someone's hit, KO'd. But really, I think it comes down to this. He's got a non-1 protect negate. I mean, that's it. There's some handy stuff, but look, he's 1 venture card, which is a very good one, right? The duel, but I don't know. I feel like it's going to be really hard to justify having to take a 16 or 17 point character just to get your negates in. But we'll see. I don't really know what I'm talking about, so maybe everyone in the comments are going to just tell me that I am missing the value of those negates and it's worth that extra point. Because instead I see Morgan, one of the 19-point characters in the set, can start in reserve. She can play a lot of shenanigans. I like her teleportation circle. If someone's getting loaded up, just swap in with them. That's pretty cool, You can also heal up heal someone. Well, that's pretty good. Attack. Use that teammate's special. You know, their cards. That's pretty awesome too. Doesn't say reserve teammate or anything like that. So, card that your reserve character wishes they could play, well, you can. Like, that's awesome versatility, I think. And then her 4 attack doesn't make the additional, but you know, you pair that with Baker Street, as I think some energies and intelligence type of decks would. And then you get extra benefit with that. Not to mention, this is great because so it's a 2-card swing and a negate. So like, if I'm going to be choosing between these 2 characters, I'm choosing Morgan Le Fay any day. Alright, so that's at least a couple of different observations that I've had kind of as a new player, things that I'm seeing on these cards. There are a few other ones that I just want to gush about. So, one of them is Van Helsing. I think this character is just so... he doesn't fit exactly with some of the combat decks that are out there. So I just got to find out where he's going to go. This is good. It's one of those few heroes. I think King Arthur and Hercules can do this, but destroy all of opponents' remainder of battle, remainder of game stuff. That could essentially negate multiple cards. Hit plus heal. Love these 5s. I think I've talked about that in other videos. I think this one had a special code that everyone would talk about before, this right tools for the job. It's a 3 attack, lets you make an additional, so it's a little bit weak, but neither can be defended with a special card, which that's just incredible. So he's got another attack, an offsuit one for where you're going to want him with as well, so that's pretty baller. He's got a negate, so awesome to carry along. He's got that sort of universe defense that if anyone swings at him, you just lock them out with that. Block the universe. And then he's got this nice 6 multi. That's not 1 per deck either. Like, this is a pretty cool set of cards that I would want to play with. You got a decent number of attacks. Your negate, of course, is going to be awesome. Like, I don't know. I just loved all his special cards. So I'm really looking forward to figuring out a deck that I can get Mr. Helsing into and play with him. Wicked is another one of those characters that I really like. She's got 19 threat, which makes her fit in anywhere, and she's got a nice 8 to play with that. So, you know, I think the staple of any energy deck, you're going to have a backup 8 to throw in there. It's going to be Wicked Witch. She's got an awesome 7, and it can hit a character in reserve. 8 multi, everyone's going to love that. The 4, her defensive 4, cuts off pressure to her if someone's trying to bully her out. So, and same with that universe thing, and then her wind card, just another fantastic one. Like, you know, you don't necessarily have to carry a ton of her specials in this deck to make it worth it, because you got this, you got her other 1 per deck, you know, maybe 1 copy of each of those. You're doing good. Actually, I wonder if I'm missing a card too. Maybe I didn't even pull her in common. Or, because I've already made a deck with her, that they're buried in that deck. And another character which, kind of like Van Helsing, I haven't really figured out where to place him yet, but I really like Sheriff of Nottingham. He's got this massive attack. It's not an 11, but I mean, I'll take a 9 any day. Can't defend that with power cards. Unless you're running a basic or training universe. This one, just going to draw all the heat because they got to discard their specials and can't play specials next battle if it succeeds. So they're going to be trying to block that. Leaves you open to throw another 1 per deck. Then you have discard a power card, and then you get their venture for it. So that could be a 16-point venture swing. Instead of them throwing it at you, you get to take it. Nice. Institute actions. Definitely want to save that up for a big heavy hitting round, but I mean, I think that's pretty sweet. You know, throw a teamwork, follow up with a couple of different attacks. You know, your 9 becomes an 11 if you got it. It's, I mean, fun to play with, I think. And then, you know, looking at opponent's draw pile, if you got Baker Street, boom, that becomes not just a peek at their deck, but rip one of them out. You know, these are, you know, just characters that I think I'm always going to be excited to see come up. And I'll be really excited for the first regional tournament to find out what people are actually building with. As I've heard some allusions that to, like, you know, a big 3. So there's, you know, some characters that everyone's going to want to be playing. You know, I can see some of the negates. But that distribution I was telling you about, I think that's going to be a real bizarre thing, because people are going to want to have their 21, 22, 23 point characters. So they're Hercules and Leonidas, Cthulhu, Zeus. They're going to be filling up decks. And then we're going to be seeing a lot of the 16, 17 point characters like Jane or Angry Mob. And I don't think we're going to be seeing quite so many of these middle cards, these 19, these 20. You really have to build your deck to you know, have, you know, an 18, 2 19s, and a 20 if you really want to pick from that pile. But then you're going to be missing out on some of the real heavy hitting cards. So I don't know, I think it'll be interesting. I hope to keep playing between now and the end of July. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see some of you in Seattle.